Hi, everyone. Welcome. If you're just joining us, you can jump into the chat and share your name and where you are coming from. Get to say hi to everybody while we wait for everybody to join us. Welcome. We're going to be talking all things professional learning today, and one of the things that we love to always start with is knowing who's in the room. So if you're just joining us, we are jumping into the chat and sharing your name and where you're joining us from today. I'm going to see where everybody is. All right, we got Texas in the room. Welcome to Jennifer. Thanks for joining us today. Another California, Maggie, welcome. Katie and I are also both in California today. Henrico, Virginia. I am from Northern Virginia, so welcome to Denise. We've got Vermont, Minnesota. Woo, now it's coming in. Long Island. Welcome to those of you who are joining us. We're jumping into the chat and sharing your name and where you are joining us from. Alden, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us today. From Greece, Marina, nice. So far you are winning the farthest from where Katie and I are located. So welcome, thanks for joining us.
We have Ben from Arizona and Monica in Michigan. Welcome. Hi, Janelle.
Another Virginia.
Virginia.
Nice to see you.
All right. Oh, Pittsburgh. Hi, Bobby Ann.
Familiar
Michael
faces
from Utah. Great to see our friends always.
Looks like we've got a group together in Nevada. Thanks for joining us.
San Francisco. All right. Personalized learning in Denver, Delaware. Hi, Jill.
All right.
Happy Mother's Day to all of you who are celebrating yesterday. Hope you all had a nice Sunday and got celebrated or celebrated somebody.
Great. I think we will jump in. You can continue to join in the chat, share where you're from. We've got another Texan in the room. So people from all over the world with us today. Welcome to Revealing Our Secrets, professional learning that makes an impact. We're going to talk how we like to make professional learning learner-centered at Learner-Centered Collaborative. And we're also excited to share a few new offerings that we are excited about with professional learning today. So with that, we will jump right in and introduce ourselves. I know many of you know Katie Martin in the room, but I am Brianna Hansen. I'm a director of learning design at Learner-Centered Collaborative, been a high school and middle school teacher, instructional coach, and technology specialist. And in this current role, I have the pleasure of working with a lot of our partners and also in building our new online courses that we're going to share a little bit about. And my favorite professional learning move is to make sure that there is a tangible, usable resource in the room for participants to use when they walk away. So hopefully you'll see some of that in action today. And I'll pass it over to Katie to introduce herself.
Thanks, Brianna. I am Katie Martin. Thank you for being here. We're excited to collaborate. Great to see so many familiar names and people. I am the Chief Impact Officer at the Learner-Centered Collaborative and really love getting to connect with educators. One of my favorite opportunities in professional learning is when I get to get people in a room, show different models, like Brianna said, and see educators make it their own for their own context. So we're going to share a little bit more about that today too.
Great. Thanks, Katie. So we got to hear a little bit of who you are in the chat and or your name and where you're coming from, but we'd love to hear a little bit more from you before we really get into it. Joanna just shared in the chat that as we go, you can give questions or any comments in the chat. We will be doing a Q&A at the end. You can see here in the agenda. But we're going to start out with some secrets of learner-centered professional learning. We'll talk a few professional learning offerings that we're excited about. We'll give you a moment to articulate a learner-centered professional learning vision. We'll take a quick poll to see what you're most interested in, and we will open up that Q&A discussion. So, to hear a little bit from you, we would love for you to take a moment and think about a meaningful learning experience that you've had. So just as a learner yourself, at any point in your life, think of one meaningful learning experience and share with us in the chat, what did you learn and what about that experience made it meaningful for you? So this is at any point in your life, any learning experience that you have to share. What did you learn and what made that experience meaningful? So is that wait time where you can't see the 3 dots like on your iPhone? Starting to get a few responses. So hands-on, something you can take back to your classroom. Thanks, Kathy, for sharing your meaningful experience. Looks like meaningful learning was relevant, engaging. Another comment about implementing it. Some moments to reflect and refine.
I just saw someone took Priya Parker's online course. Jennifer, I love Priya Parker, so I'm glad to hear rave reviews on it, to check it out.
Michael sharing about Scribble, learning about a new tool. Again, that being able to implement something and have something right away that you can use. Movement. I saw a comment about movement. Meaningful learning experiences do not have to be sitting, listening. Shouldn't always be sitting and listening. Knowledge we can use the next day. So many things.
Yeah, Susan just said learning in our ZPD, which is so important. Not too hard, not too easy, but that also means that's different for everybody. So it's another plug for those personalized opportunities.
Oh, and Renee mentioning learning a new language, that repetition and practice. Love that. As a second language speaker myself, I also always feel that was my most meaningful learning experience. Personalized, self-directed learning experiences, and again, the mention of reflection time. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what meaningful learning experiences have been for you. I hope that we will show you some similar, we have a lot of collective wisdom in this room. So I think a lot of what Katie's going to share today will resonate with the people in this room. So we asked you about a meaningful learning experience, and a lot of you did share about professional learning experiences, some about some outside learning experiences. If you were to just distill professional learning down to one word, and this could be the current reality of professional learning, what you envision for professional learning, but if you were to describe professional learning in one word, what would you use to describe it? And we have a Mentimeter here, so you can either use your phone and scan that QR code, or you can go to menti.com and use that code there. And I think we'll also put the link in the chat for you to click on. But if you could join us in the Mentimeter and give us your one word to describe professional learning. And I'll jump over so we can start to see what people are saying.
Growth, I love it. Engaging, relevant. there's a scrunchy face, so that might be what it is sometimes, not the ideal.
I love the emoji word.
I know.
I have to call that out next time. Thank you for whoever added that emoji. I see kind of a dichotomy. We see sit and get and the kind of sad emoji. We also see collaborative and actionable and empowering.
Near-death experience. Hopefully we'll avoid those.
All right, I see us slowing down, so we'll jump in just to kind of think about our secrets. I will pass it over to Katie.
Wonderful. Thanks all. Again, so great to see. I loved thinking about your most significant learning experiences and how relevant they are. We're going to just share some examples, I think, how to make our professional learning more aligned to how we learn best and to create more of those most significant learning experiences. So we often talk about learning as a process and not an event. And on this next slide, there's this wheel that you have likely seen in a lot of our work, but really thinking about so often professional learning, when it's not as effective, really is an event. You show up, someone determines what you need, you learn, and then you're expected to implement. And we know from years of research and our own practical experience that doesn't actually translate to really impactful learning in the classroom. So when we think about it as a cycle, getting really clear about what we're trying to accomplish, setting those goals, understanding what learning should look like, and then those constant iterations as educators to learn, grow, get feedback, revise, all those things we want to see in our classrooms for our students, we want to create for educators to really be able to understand and grow. Just like you said, what we want professional learning to be about growth and joy and learning. So the first secret, that's probably not so secret to many of you, but through tons of research and our own work with educators and our own experience as well, we know educators want clarity and a shared vision of what and why they are learning. So a lot of times I've asked a superintendent or principals, what do you want to see in the classroom? What is your ideal experience? And sometimes people will say to me, well, I just know it when I see it. You know, I can't really explain it, but if you just walk in a classroom, you just feel it. This sounds kind of cool, but how in the world is an educator or a coach supposed to support that type of environment when there's not clarity around what the ideal environment looks like? And without that clarity, we often revert back to our own ideas of what effective teaching and learning is, that is our own experience and not necessarily aligned with the world we live in and what our young people need. So we talk about a learning model, and a learning model differs from an instructional model a bit. You'll hear, instructional model, this is how we want you to teach. But if we're learner-centered, we really believe in a learning model, focusing on how we want people to learn that translates to students in our classroom, but also us as educators. So a learning model is a shared vision of what teaching and learning looks like to support learners in developing essential knowledge, skills, and dispositions. And so if we want new and different outcomes for our learners, we have to think about learning experiences that really align to that, and defining them as a collective community can help align resources, but also identify what's working and help us prioritize our next steps. So the learning model that we use at the Learner-Centered Collaborative is centered around these 4 experiences. It's learning experiences that are authentic. Those are the real-world project-based learning experiences. Competency-based, where there's an evidence-based instruction, assessment, and feedback cycle that drives learning based on progress toward desired knowledge, skills, and dispositions. We also want to ensure that there's an inclusive and equitable community where each individual is valued and seen for who they are and can show up and feel like they truly belong. And finally, a personalized opportunity, which many of you talked about, that within my ZPD, my goals, that the experience is tailored to what I need at that particular time. So something I want to highlight about these 4 learning experiences, oftentimes you see that dichotomy that it's either authentic and project-based or it's personalized and competency-based. And we believe at the Learner Center Collaborative that it needs to be all and not either or. We need to have those authentic, meaningful, real-world experiences, but we also have to have real clear skills and competency-based progression so that young people and educators alike can make sure that they're developing those skills, but also have authentic opportunities to apply. And of course, that learning community is critical because we learn with others, and we want to make sure that we create that environment where people feel seen and able to learn and be vulnerable. So based on these learning experiences, we have a framework that allows for educators to self-assess where they are, because again, it starts with your goals, your strengths, but also the opportunities. So we start with these competencies, the outcomes aligned to those learning experiences, and then educator competencies, where we can see, well, I really want to develop learner agency, and it's a goal of mine. So I'm going to work on empowering learners. I'm going to work on encouraging goal setting and reflection. But I'm really, really strong in highlighting the process of thinking and soliciting feedback. So we use this as a tool to not only think about next steps, but also to validate and celebrate the things that are working. And we know that just like our students, educators have jagged profiles and they vary as well. So it's important to be able to identify strong areas, but also next steps. So we have our framework for the future encourages communities, whether it's a school or district, to think about what is the learning model that you want to adopt in your community based on your locally defined outcomes. This is what we call a framework for the future. So Joanna just put a blog in there that you're welcome to check out. And even if not, we have these resources to support this learning model. And it's a cool tool for you to think about, how does it align to your community? What could you leverage? Or create your own tool that helps define what learning looks like in your community. So once you've defined what learning looks like, the second secret, again, is educators create what they experience. And so if we want to see new and different learning opportunities in our learning communities, then educators need to experience something new and different to really understand that model. So I often say, if we want to change how students learn, we must change how educators learn. So think about these experiences on the next slide, where educators are learning in community. They're going out and experiencing real world projects. They're building things. They're collaborating. They're using inquiry to understand and solve problems. And every time we see educators engaging in these experiences and really tackling real world problems, they understand the connection between that authenticity and the skills and how to truly personalize and create those learning environments for their students. But of course, we all know this, like you said, death by near-death experience. If we are just expecting educators to come into a faculty meeting and let me tell you all the things, we aren't really going to functionally change how educators learn. So we've designed a faculty meeting template to actually be about learning. I hear so much, we don't have time for learning. We just have to get through all the things. If we flip it and send emails about the logistics and spend our time together collaborating, planning, aligning on those learning experiences, creating opportunities for personalization. We know in a school, there's rarely every single teacher who needs the same thing. So but it is important to learn in community and come together and collaborate. So designing faculty meetings where people can learn together, see new models, and then have some different choices of learning options based on their needs, and then opportunities for feedback and application and reflection. All of that can happen in a 45-minute hour meeting if it's designed effectively. So hopefully this tool can help you think about flipping a faculty meeting or those short opportunities to really design for meaningful educator development. Secret 3 is really around creating those models. So again, it's important to have a clear vision. It's important to create time to really have new and different experiences, but also creating models of what's possible can shift our thinking, right? So we love to do learning walks. You can do it with the teacher next door. You can go and visit. You can share on Twitter what's happening and share those examples. And just we use LC Bright Spots to highlight practices, or even the Observe Me movement are just some simple ways to engage in these learning opportunities in your own learning community, but also getting out of your school, visiting other classrooms in the district can help educators think about what else is happening outside their own classroom. Many educators have never been outside of their classroom or seen another educator teach since their own student teaching or their own learning experience. So being able to see videos, walk into someone else's classroom is always a really powerful learning experience. We advocate strongly when you walk into someone else's classroom, especially if you're using it for your own professional learning. It's about you, not about them. So even when we lead these walks, it's not, oh, this teacher, didn't use wait time, or this teacher didn't call on all the students. It is, what did I see? I saw kids setting goals. I saw students collaborating with one another. I saw effective use of turn and talk, whatever it is. Then these look-fors can help you as an educator identify those effective practices and think about what you want to bring back to your community. And it also creates a much better environment than I'm going to go in with a clipboard, I'm going to evaluate you, and I'm going to check off things that I saw. We want to create an environment where we're all learning and growing together, and when we're in community. So being able to identify what you see, looking for bright spots, but also thinking about your own practice is a really effective way of creating new models, but also seeing what you can take back to your own classroom. So the fourth secret is educators learn best with and from each other. And again, not a secret to many of you on this call. So often we get caught up in, I have to design professional development. And a friend told me recently, like, I'm trying to cram in all this content in one day. And as we were talking about it, the beauty of people coming together is not all the content that they can hear. It's about what they can do in collaboration with one another. So sharing models, providing tools are critical, but creating the space, and I'm going to throw in Priya Parker. I love her tips about how we gather. And it's creating the space for people to gather in community, to share their ideas, and also having the accountability to test new strategies. And so building in that time for collaboration, I love, our partners Design 39, every day they build in collaboration to their school day. They were very intentional about this. And they knew that if they wanted to change the way that students learn, they had to change their meeting structure so that they were constantly learning and pushing on each other to create those really effective opportunities. And you see the wall in the back where they're mapping out, they're reflecting, and they're learning together. We have partners like El Segundo, Hampton Township, who are coming together and creating teacher-led conferences aligned to their learning model, where educators are sharing their best practices, They're leaving time for collaboration and reflection so educators can choose based on their own goals and they can navigate their path. But that time to work together, we can't be fooled by saying we have to just fill it with content. We really have to make sure, just like in our classrooms, it's the mini lesson, it's the big idea, and providing those resources and opportunities for educators to take an idea, make it their own, get feedback, and really think about how they can put these ideas into their context. And like many of you said, those are the best professional learning opportunities, is when you can take something and make it relevant the next day. So this is a blog around communities of practice, why you should say yes, making sure that even though we feel like we're so busy and there's not enough time, when we come together and make time for learning, that's often when we get our plates, our cups filled, and we can actually make the work lighter when we work together. So thinking about all of these secrets, they come from these five goals that educators always say they want. So when I ask, what do you want in your professional learning? I hear shared vision. I want personal learning pathways, right? Based on that shared vision, I want pathways that are shared. We want resources to design those powerful learning experiences. We need that coaching and feedback. If we don't have coaching, it's hard to translate those practices and understand what's working and not. And ultimately, that collaboration that makes everything work. So when you think about these gears, those secrets are intentionally designed to help ensure there's a shared vision. Each educator can move at their own pace based on their goals to really effectively shift practices to the desired model and ultimately achieve the outcomes that we want for all students. So these are the shifts that we're encouraging to move from the pockets of innovation, like many of you want, to really creating this inclusive culture of learning and innovation. So we need to think about a lack of shared vision and expectations to clear learning model. A lot of times where I see we get hung up, educators are told, you're a professional, I trust you, do whatever you want. This sometimes feels good, but it's hard if everybody is closing their doors and doing something on their own. So if we create that shared vision, then we can allow educators to get there in a way that is most relevant for them in their context, rather than managing step by step, or, you have to be on this pace or do this outcome at the same time. So we're moving from educators working in silos to time for collaboration. We're moving from opt-in models where, oh, you want to try something, great, and everyone else gets to do whatever they want. We would never allow that for our students. I always say in a math class, you would never say, oh, you don't want to take that math test, or you don't want to learn this new strategy. We're going to, go ahead and just do whatever you want. We would never allow that for our students. So for our educators, we need to think about everybody is moving toward our vision, but you get to do it in a way that's most relevant for you, which means we need to move from one-day trainings where everyone learns the same thing to more ongoing job embedded learning opportunities for coaching, collaboration, and ongoing support. And finally, moving from status quo is the safest to learning from doing is prioritized. This means we have to eliminate the idea that we're going to be the perfect educator and we're going to have the perfect lesson, to really understanding that our growth is a constant evolution and we need to continue to grow, reflect, make things public so that we can truly create really authentic, meaningful learning experiences for our students. So those are some 4 secrets, big ideas of the shifts. I see some things in the chat around sharing the self-assessment. Happy to share all these tools that we have. And our goal is ultimately for you to make them your own and adapt them. So I want you to be thinking about your context. We expect each of you, I know many of you on the call, lead professional learning in your school or district or state. So I want you to be thinking about what are the experiences that are right for you? Where are you really feeling like you have success, and where are some opportunities for next steps? some of the experiences that we think about in these 4 buckets. So school and district partnerships, where we're really understanding and designing that framework for a future, designing those workshops and priorities around leadership development, aligning coaching to really create this deep implementation. We also have self-paced courses that Brianna is going to talk a little bit more about, but this is also the asynchronous micro-credentials, communities of practice where, smaller groups of educators, you might not have a whole district partnership. You might not be able to do that, but you can influence a small community of educators. I think about when I was an instructional coach, I wasn't in charge of the whole district, although, I had some ideas. My only sphere of influence was with the 10 teachers on my team. And so we read some books, we leveraged some courses, and we worked together as a team and saw some really great impact. The next thing is maybe there's networks and convenings. Maybe you have a small group, or you just want to be connected with other educators. You need to get out of your silo, your building, your district, and you want to see some other practices. We have networks and convenings that can support that. And finally, we want to make sure tools, resources, strategies are available to everybody. Like Lisa asking about our assessment framework, happy to share. We have a ton of tools and strategies aligned to each one of those competencies. We're building out pages that have examples from educators all over the world. Podcasts, I love to interview and share what's happening with amazing educators. So there's 2 seasons of the podcast that happy for you to check out, and would love for you to hear some of your feedback. And then, of course, books and webinars like these are resources to support development. So before I hand it over to Brianna, the last one I just want to highlight is that when we think about these principles of professional learning, the way that we think about this theory of action is identifying the North Star. A lot of times, we're growing and improving and trying new things, but not always in this, everyone moving in the same direction. So establishing that North Star, the clear vision, mission, and values is critical. Aligning those success indicators. What is it that we want for young people? What are those outcomes that we're striving for? And what does success look like in our community? If we're expanding that definition beyond test scores and beyond, GPAs, we really want to think about what is it that we're trying to accomplish for young people, and how do we make that clear in our community? And then we define that learning model. What does learning look like? If we want kids who are effective collaborators and communicators, global citizens, what does the learning need to look like to develop those young people and those knowledge, skills, and dispositions? And then ultimately, we create these learning cycles. We want to move from that isolated event to multiple learning cycles where we have an idea, we see a model, we put it into practice, we get feedback, we look at the impact we're having, and then we define those next steps. And once we really get clear on those effective practices in your context, those are the ones we can scale to really make sure that all learners in the community get access to those most meaningful learning experiences. All along the way, there's this really effective guiding coalition who's helping identify what's working in your community and drive this work. So it's locally defined and locally driven.
Thanks, Katie, for sharing about our secrets and then also this school and district partnerships. I'm going to jump in here and share a little bit more about this kind of end of the cycle here with learning cycles and scaling. So Katie was just sharing all of the work that we do with partners to create that North Star, success indicators, learning model, do lots of learning cycles. But we also want to be able to scale that work and be able to provide learning to educators for professional learning around learner-centered practices. So we are developing, we're really excited to launch this summer, self-paced asynchronous courses. So this is the kind of overview of the courses. So I think Joanna's going to share in the chat a link where you can see a lot more detail. What you'll see though are 4 learning pathways that correspond directly to our learning model or our framework around what we think learner-centered teaching and learning looks like. So authentic learning, personalized learning, competency-based learning, inclusive and equitable learning. And each of those pathways includes 3 courses. So that's what's under those buckets. And in addition to those pathways, we also have some additional educator courses, a learner-centered foundations course for those educators who are just getting started with learner-centered practices, project-based learning and design thinking for those educators who want to dive into those topics. And then we also have a pathway for leadership. So what are the enabling conditions that leadership can work on to make learner-centered transformation happen? And what are the leadership traits that a leader can take on to make sure that they're leading in a learner-centered way? And then we're also excited to have our book study courses. Katie's Evolving Education book will be a book study course, as well as Devin Badichka's Learner-Centered Leadership. So check out the link that Joanna shared with more information about these specific topics, courses. We're also already talking about additional topics that we'll be launching this summer as well. So this is just the start. But these courses are meant to be bite-sized. So they're about 10 hours to complete with an optional performance task that would be an option for you if you would like to get continuing education credits with UC San Diego. We're excited to partner with them. And then we're also partnering with Digital Promise for the option of a micro-credential. So there's really a lot of optionality. Again, we want our professional learning to be personalized to what you need and also authentic. So to have that kind of job embedded model. Each of these courses are about 4 to 6 modules. You're going to have a variety of videos, resources, tools, quizzes, and reflection questions. So again, we are modeling what we want educators to be with learners. So authentic, we want that those personalized options. And we also want it to be competency-based. So again, those micro-credentials are competency-based, but our entire course, every course is competency-based based on that framework that Katie was sharing at the beginning of that shared vision of learner-centered education. And then the other way that we personalize the professional learning and also make it much more authentic and collaborative is that there are a variety of ways educators can enhance their learning. So in addition to the online self-paced courses, we offer virtual community of practice sessions, in-person workshops, which can really be more deep dives into topics. But those sessions, both the communities of practice and the in-person workshops, really give that opportunity for collaborative time. So like Katie shared, educators learn best with each other. So having the time for them to come together, they've done some asynchronous learning and tried out some new seen some new models, and now it's time to come together, collaborate, and build something together. So these opportunities really enhance the online courses, and the online courses enhance those in-person opportunities because educators have already gone through a wealth of resources. And then we also offer one-on-one or small group coaching. Katie mentioned that in the wheels, if you remember, or the gears around that coaching piece to really give feedback. It's an important element of competency-based education. So we're really excited to offer these new courses and then to have all of these additional offerings with those courses. Every course does get a certificate of completion. You can see Katie's right there. She completed our Spark Collaboration course. We have our Spark Collaboration micro-credential live on the Digital Promise website. That's our very first, but we will be releasing many more this summer. And then, like I said, those courses also have the option of continuing education credits with UC San Diego. So those are some of our new course offerings for professional learning. And then we also have learner-centered connections launching this spring and summer. Katie mentioned that you may want to see new models outside of your context. So this includes school and industry visits. It includes networking with colleagues nationwide. There's a lot of collaboration that will happen in these sessions. And then there's also that year-round virtual access to coaching sessions, communities of practice, and your cohort colleagues. So it's kind of putting a lot of those secrets together in one place. Again, the courses would be that much more kind of scaling. All of your educators could have access to these courses. And these connections are an opportunity for representatives from your school or organization to kind of go see what's out there and report back to your local context. So I think Joanna also shared how you can learn more about our learner-centered connections in the chat as well. All right. Really quickly, Katie already mentioned a lot of our resources on the website. We've got tools you can download. You've already seen some of those today, blogs as well. Katie's podcast is amazing. If you're not already listening to it, please find it anywhere you listen to your podcasts or whatever that line is. Check out our framework that Joanna added to the chat as well. And then super excited that we are releasing today. You are the very first person to see this page, our learner-centered strategies pages, which are actionable strategies that educators can take into their classroom. These are all also in our courses, and our courses build on these strategies. So if one of those strategies really speaks to you, that might be telling you a course that you would be really interested in taking yourself or offering for your educators. So please check out those strategies. We're really excited to launch those today. And with that, we would love if you could share in the chat, thinking about our 4 secrets that Katie shared that are listed here on the slide. Thinking of one of them, how might you or how are you currently creating one of these in your professional learning? So again, a vision of how might you, an idea maybe you're taking away from today, or something you just want to share from one of these secrets that you're already doing in your context. And while you're at it, if you have any questions that you want to add to the Q&A, we'll open those up in just a moment. See a lot of people resonating. The idea of clarity and vision is resonating. PLCs happening in schools. It's exciting to see. Janelle sharing that student voices are at the center.
Yes. I love Jennifer, intentionally connect the modeling to that's going on. So important because sometimes people don't always notice it. The self-assessment. Yep. Never underestimate a model of what's possible. So powerful.
Lots of people thinking about that shared vision piece and creating that. So it's exciting to see. And if you're interested in working with us on learning models, we love to do that work and think about your shared vision. And Alicia, yes, love the shared vision might be the first step. We always think that there's always multiple entry points. We really believe strongly in that, but having that shared vision makes all those other pieces kind of fall into place. So, all right, thank you so much for sharing. I think we'll open it up. We have a quick poll. I think you should see it shortly on your screen, that if you were to think about the learning experiences that we shared today, are there any that you would like to learn more about? We always want to personalize the information, both in the Q&A and also in our follow-up to you to make sure you have the resources that you're looking for. And as you fill out that poll,
All right, the poll results are coming in. So are the questions. Excited for a few minutes of Q&A.
if you have any questions, feel free to answer them in the ask them in the Q&A, and Katie will jump in and start to answer those questions.
Great. I mean, they can answer them too. There's lots of people who are answering them. So the first one I want to jump in and talk about, Tegan from OutSchool, hi, is asking about educators in their network. They're a little bit more diverse and they can't mandate professional learning. Even when we can mandate professional learning, doesn't always ensure that learning is happening. So the question is, we know incentivizing professional learning is not best practice, but what are some ways that we can build buy-in with such a globally and pedagogically diverse educator audience? So I would argue, Tegan, that this question, although it's specific to OutSchool, can apply to most contexts because most of our teachers are very diverse in their needs. So what I would say is incentivizing just showing up we would not advocate for, right? That's the like, I'm going to pay you, or you mandate that you have to show up for this one day of training. What we know is the competency-based approach is where you're providing time and resources, and then you're incentivizing the actual impact on students. So that's where the micro credentials come in. And I've seen some great models. One of our favorites is in JUAB in Utah. They have created pathways for educators, and each time they earn a micro credential, which shows evidence of the impact that they've had aligned to that outcome. For instance, they have one that is honoring voice and choice. So when educators are trying out strategies and creating more opportunities for student voice in their classrooms, then they show evidence of what they've done and the impact. And that evidence then is submitted for a micro credential, and they might get PD credit, or sometimes financially, there's a financial payment for that they've navigated with their board. But it is incentivizing the impact, not just the showing up. So that's the competency-based piece. But also there's many areas that say, the first part is setting a goal. If an educator is setting a goal, I want to grow in my opportunities to personalize learning for students. That's something they're invested in. Then creating the opportunities for them to learn, whether it's an asynchronous course, whether it's a community of practice, or if it's, opportunities to look at some strategies and try things out on their own. Then you have that follow-up conference and coaching. How are you doing? What's working? What are the next steps? But it's aligned to their goals based on a framework that you have of what you want teaching and learning to look like, their goals. Then they're more invested in the learning process rather than, can you show up to this workshop? So those are a couple ways that I think professional learning can really model educator autonomy within a structure that supports growth and development. Right. I know we have, let's see if there's one more question. I've answered that one.
I think we had the question before about sharing. I know you mentioned it, Katie, sharing the self-assessment. On our website, that framework page that Joanna shared a link to does show all of our educator competencies that you can use to create a self-assessment. We do work with all of our partners to kind of make it their own, like Katie mentioned, and then create their own self-assessment. But as our courses are launching this summer, we will be launching a self-assessment for educators to take that self-assessment and decide which courses are right for them. So if you're interested in that and in our courses, definitely let us know in that poll already, and we'll make sure to follow up with you with all of those details as they launch this summer.
Awesome. Well, I know we hit our time limit, so thank you for joining us today and sharing your own expertise and ideas. I hope there are takeaways, and if you use any of the resources or you build on them, please let us know. We always love to hear what works and what we can build. So thank you. Have a wonderful week, and enjoy your learners.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.